welcome to the Let's Talk Kids Health Facebook Live Show, Episode 5. I'm Dr. Narissa Bauer, your host. I'm a behavioral pediatrician and blogger of Let's Talk Kids Health. The concept of this show is to disseminate information about behavioral health and wellness for family and kids. Every week, I plan to bring you topics and guests to help me advance the mission so we can all talk together. Now, remember, if you're viewing this live, you'll have the opportunity to post comments and ask questions of my guest. The replay will be immediately available when we end the broadcast. Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce this week's guest. Wray is a picture book author who focuses on telling stories dealing with mental and emotional health. His first two books, Unraveling Rose and Max's Box, each received the Gold Award from Forward Indies Book of the Year Awards. He's also the author of Maia and the Very Tall Wall and the upcoming Fenn's Drop of Gray. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, Dr. Bauer. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And I have to say that I am so pleased that we finally get to meet face to face. We've exchanged so many emails over the years, and I'm just so excited to finally get to speak with you.
Me too.
So thank you.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun.
Yes. So, without further ado, I think we have some questions that I want to get to. But again, if you're watching this live and you want to ask some questions, please make sure to drop that in the comment box below. It's not going to show up in real time because I get to ask my questions first, but then I will pop them up afterwards. Okay. All right. So the first question is, why is it important to focus on children's emotional and mental health?
Great question. I think that we've come a long way in understanding the importance of focusing on mental and emotional health, but it's also important to remember to keep in mind that in the United States alone, up to 1 in 5 children a year suffer from a mental or emotional health disorder, according to the CDC, and that's about like 17 million kids a year who meet the criteria for disorders that can affect a child's behavior or ability to learn or process emotions. So it's important to keep those numbers in mind because there's a lot of people out there who need help.
Yeah. And I, as a behavioral pediatrician myself, as you know, I see so many kids right now that are before the pandemic and even more so now that are really suffering, not just the children, but the families. It's been stressful for everybody. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this topic tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, before I move on to the next question, though, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, how did you get into the space of writing children's books?
Well, I've been writing stories for as long as I could string words together. It's something that I've always loved to do. And the way I told stories changed over the years. I had the wonderful opportunity to write for Walt Disney, which sort of ignited a real passion about the idea of telling stories for children. So I shifted my focus to writing children's books. And at that time, I had a young child of my own. And one of the things that I realized I was really not equipped for when I became a parent was helping her through emotional issues that every child faces. I didn't have the skills to do that. And I thought, well, maybe there are other parents out there like me. And children's books are a wonderful way to create a situation where you can tell a story and that story can become a catalyst for conversation. So I began writing children's stories that focused on mental and emotional health issues.
Wow. I mean, I love that. I mean, as a pediatrician, and I know a lot of my colleagues out there who are watching this, we do pass out children's books in the primary care setting called Reach Out and Read. It's important as a way to promote literacy, but also that parent-child time together. I'm just amazed because it does take a real skill to put pen to paper and to craft these beautiful stories that you've done. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say, as you said, younger children especially need to feel that connection to their parent or caregiver to help regulate their emotions. And story time is just a natural way for that to happen. The TV's not on, you're not looking at social media, you're just taking time to be together and read a story. So it's sort of the natural place for that to occur.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so can I ask you, was your daughter helping you test out some of these ideas as you were coming up with stories?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And we have two daughters now, and they get to hear all the ideas.
Oh, that's so
So
fun. That's so
yeah.
fun. Okay, well, let's go to the next question. So, ideas for creating an environment where children feel safe expressing themselves emotionally.
Yeah. Well, again, it's important, I think, to remember that like emotional and mental health issues are not strictly the domain of adulthood, right? Children have all the same fears, anxieties, and worries and sadnesses that adults do. What they might not have is the language to express those, right? So, creating an environment where a child feels safe expressing themselves is going to be huge because they won't be suppressing those feelings, which we know can lead to other issues. So I always say that like language really matters.
Hmm.
Try to help your child develop an emotional vocabulary is one way you can help create that environment. Um, Another way is I call sort of focus on the emotion, not the behavior.
Yes.
Um, if your child is having an emotional outburst, it's sort of a very natural tendency to want to step in and try and intervene in the moment. But sometimes it's okay to just let that play out. They're probably having that outburst because they're feeling overwhelmed by an emotion. Let them have that out, give it some time, and then talk to them about what happened. And again, focus on the emotion, not the behavior. So I noticed you were really angry when you couldn't play with that toy or whatever the issue is.
Hmm.
It's just, again, if that's one more way that you can sort of help them feel okay to express themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, those are very similar to a lot of the parenting advice that I do in the parent training workshops that I offer. I mean, that is definitely a key skill, validating emotions, focus, and I love what you just said, focusing on the emotion and not the behavior. And I think it's really hard sometimes for parents to sort of step back and sort of wait.
Of
It sort
course.
of is echoing a lot of the themes of mindfulness and sort of being okay to sit with not only the positive emotions, but those negative ones, because we all feel those, and then letting it sort of pass through us.
Absolutely. Something else that I've found works is what I call, sort of teaching alternatives. So, for instance, if my child was having trouble building something with blocks and
Yeah.
it kept falling over, and I could, she was getting angry, I would say, you seem like you're feeling really angry about those blocks. What are some things we can do about that? You could try building them again,
Hmm.
or you could ask for help building, or you could give it, 10 minutes and then come back. And that was really good because it sort of helped her empower her
Hmm.
that she had some control and how she was responding to her emotion,
Hmm.
and it helped her imagine how she could deal with what she was feeling. That's something else that I found is really helpful. Because it seemed to be empowering to her that she had some choice in how she was dealing with those feelings that she was having.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. That is that again reminds me of a skill that we teach. It's called descriptive commenting, and so just sort of just saying what you see. But I mean, I'm listening to you say that, and I imagine your voice is so soothing too. I mean, that's really important in the moment to sort of modulate your own emotion through your
Yeah,
words and through your actions.
yeah.
And if you can stay calm too, it works.
It can be challenging, but it's really. I mean, again, I've been that parent in the grocery store with a child who's having a meltdown because they
Yes.
can't have something that they really want, and it's hard. Take those 3 deep breaths. You know,
Uh-huh.
Pick her up, maybe take for a walk. Just let her have it out, and then address the situation. It's not easy, but
Yes.
but it's so much more effective. I found.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
thank you for that. I think again, it's a nice reminder, but it is hard. It is
yeah,
hard,
of course.
especially
Yeah,
when you're in public.
yeah.
Yep.
We have feelings too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm going to ask another question here, and then I think we have a couple comments. Let me, before we do that, let me double check and see.
Great.
Okay, so thank you, Caitlin. So she said, very inspiring. And again, it's kind of asynchronous. So I think that was in response to a comment that you made earlier. But let me go ahead and ask this next question, and then Caitlin also has another question for us.
Great.
So hold on one second. All right. So, why is it important to help children feel confident in speaking up?
I think it's because when we teach our children how to express themselves with confidence, it has a huge effect on their self esteem. Their self esteem grows. They perform better in school as a
Hmm.
result. They're able to build more positive relationships with their peers. It helps them deal with conflicts in a more constructive way when they can express themselves clearly and confidently. And getting back to emotions, it also helps them manage their emotions because they can articulate themselves with confidence and with clarity.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And so, can you explain or walk us through, like when you're reading a book, like how do you infuse that with children? Or how did you do it with your own daughter when you're reading a book? How would you model that for her?
I think that depending on the book, the books that I like to write
Hmm.
are meant to, first of all, entertain with I hope is a good story, but second of all, provide a catalyst for larger conversations if the child and or the adult wants to go down that road. So I think, depending on the story, the opportunity for conversation is just there.
Hmm.
When we're reading with our kids, I think we tend to naturally, what do you think about that? Or, what did you see there? We do that when we're reading, right? So with the stories that I write, there are opportunities to do that, but with these issues that we're discussing.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I think, and the other thing is, of course, I love children's books. I actually write some children's book reviews on my blog for this very purpose because I think, when we connected years ago, I was so thrilled because I just love, the concept of using children's books for this very reason. Um, but I think it's really important to also think about other mediums. So you don't have to wait till, bedtime. You can read any time of the day, right? But you can
Mm-hmm.
also narrate your own emotions just kind of ad hoc,
Yeah,
in the middle of the day or, as you're watching something on TV or you could pause something and say, "Hey, what did you notice about that?" So looking for those
absolutely,
opportunities to bring that
absolutely.
conversation.
And something else that I think art is a great way if your child's having trouble expressing themselves verbally.
Uh-huh.
I think one way to help them is with art projects. We take the opportunity to do art projects as often as we can. It's a great calming experience. It's a great way to express yourself. And there have been times, certainly when our youngest, who's now 5, but she'll be drawing, and you can see very intensely something's going on in that drawing, and I'll just ask, "What are you working on?" And she'll just start telling a story about something that happened, and sometimes those stories are based on something that really happened to her, something that happened at school or at the park or something. And clearly she's working something out that she hasn't been able to verbalize.
Mm-hmm.
But this art project has been a great way for her to sort of express something that she's been thinking about or feeling. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be story time, certainly. Art projects are great. Listening to music is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I love that though. I mean, I think always with the eye of, using your child's cues and you notice them doing art, but then, following through with that question and just inviting them to that you want to hear their thoughts and their feelings is
Yeah.
really, really important too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn my attention here from that question from Caitlin. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for submitting a question. So she said that I have found using books with characters struggling with similar things that my child or children are struggling with almost helps take the weight of the struggle off of the child. Do you have any further advice on pairing the struggle from the character to the struggle a child is facing? This is both from a parent hat and the teacher hat.
Great question. I think when we are able to identify with characters in a story, it lets us know that we're not alone in our experience. And that can really be take a weight off of your shoulders. It can help remove any stigma that you might be feeling or awkwardness that you might be feeling about something that you're going through. So yes, stories are wonderful for that. I'm so excited to hear that she reads stories that offer that opportunity, because that really is a wonderful experience. And again, opens up a natural opportunity for a conversation to occur. Something like, boy, the character in that book really seemed to be blank or feeling blank. And I think children naturally sort of pick up on it. They might not know that you're leading them down a path, but they sense the cue and they will engage in that conversation if they're ready to.
Yeah.
But
Do you mind sharing, because like right before we went live, you were talking about how you would go and do some book readings at schools. Can you just share that comment that you said about how ready kids are?
absolutely. That's been one of the most wonderful things. I mean, it's just so much fun to go to schools or libraries or bookstores and share these stories in any way. But certainly at schools where there's larger groups of kids, it's been so encouraging to see how excited they are to talk about these subjects. I think sometimes grown-ups feel a little more awkward about them than children do. The children at these schools, the arms are going up. They're talking about feelings that they're having. They're expressing themselves, openly with their peers, which is wonderful. And their peers are supportive, and they all have ideas about how to help each other if somebody's going through a big feeling. It's been wonderfully inspiring to see that.
I love that. I mean, I think if parents haven't really done a lot of this, I mean, reading books with the intention to start that conversation, to not be fearful about it. I think it's a easier way to start that conversation with a child, because rather than sitting them down and saying, "Okay, we've got to talk about something," where they may automatically go in the defense mode or withdraw.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a gentle way to sort of
Yeah.
open that door.
Absolutely. It's very natural. Again, I'm assuming most of us read with our children.
Yes.
It's just something that happens anyway. So it's calming, it's quiet, you're together. It's not confrontational at all. You're sharing something,
Yeah.
right? Which invites, I think, more sharing or the opportunity for more sharing.
Yeah, it really is lovely. And I love, your motivation to start writing books. I mean, again, I think it takes a talent, especially for children's books, because I tend to, when I write, I'm pretty verbose, and it's very hard to sort of narrow down the word count and all of that. I think for kids, it has to be very simple, and
It does.
the ideas have to be sort of very concise, but so I think it takes a real skill.
I love it. I love the challenge of doing that, and it's not easy too, because we all experience things in our own way. So
Yeah.
I'm writing about issues that are specific, but also very broad,
Yeah.
because so I love the challenge of sort of finding the best way to tell a story that can get to a specific issue, but in a way that anyone can access it.
Yeah. Do you mind? I'm gonna bring up your illustrator who you've been working with. Oh,
No, please do.
yes, I love the drawings in each of your books. I mean, I think that really caught my eye with Unraveling Rose, your first book. Just beautifully drawn. I mean, how do you work in tandem with her, or how do you work that partnership out?
Well, I've only worked with Shiloh,
Uh-huh.
so I'm very grateful. She's amazing, and as luck would have it, we live extremely close to each
Oh
other.
my
We're
gosh.
within like blocks, really, of each
Wow.
other. We're both in Brooklyn, so we have the opportunity, under normal circumstances, to get together at a coffee shop and talk about things, which is great. And my understanding is that not all authors are as involved in the illustration process. So I also feel fortunate about that. But Shiloh is so wonderful that, like, really, I don't have much to say. It's she just takes it and brings the stories to life in a way that I is nothing but wonderful to me. So I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure to give her a shout out because
She's
I think,
amazing.
yeah, it really does just bring this extra element to your words. So. Yeah, so I think right now, because we had a little free drawing for for the folks who shared the post, I'm going to go ahead. I have some here, and I'm just going to, turn my head here and pick somebody's name, and I will say, oh, so the free copy of a children's book from you is going to go to Becca W. So thank you, Becca, for sharing the event and following the following the rules for the raffle entry. So thank you. So Brian, I will kind of share her information with you, and I think that was for Maya, right? Yeah, great. So let me just make sure if we have any other comments or questions. Let me just see and make sure that we have everybody answered there. I don't want to leave anybody out. Okay. Well, so thank you again for talking with me this evening. It was so fun. And again,
Thank you.
like I said, we've exchanged so many emails, but now we're actually seeing each other face to face. So I appreciate you coming on the show. So for next week, I just want to introduce, I will be talking with my friend and colleague,
You're
Dr. Damon
breaking up a little
Korb.
bit. I'm
Oh,
sorry. You broke up just a little bit. I
oh,
didn't hear
okay.
what you just said. I
Oh,
apologize.
that's okay. So thank you for telling me that. So I'm just going to be introducing my next week's special guest. And that's going to be with talking with my colleague and friend, Dr. Damon Korb, where we're going to talk nurturing executive functions in kids. So I hope you guys will all tune in for that for next week. So, if you have any suggestions for future topics or guests, please feel free to reach out to me at letstalkkidshealth@gmail.com or drop me a comment below or message me on social media. And remember, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Narissa Bauer MD, to be alerted when I go live each week or follow my blog Facebook page. Thank you so much. It was a great evening.